Hello, you people that have way too much equipment. I mean, I know. If you have several amps, people always ask me, how are you switching them? I mean, it shouldn't really be a secret right now, but it is. Apparently, I'm still not mentioning it enough. Right there, very blurry, is an Ampete 88S Studio Switcher, which handles this amp wall, 8 of them. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the one that's not connected is, I think, the Soldano. Yes, everything's connected except the Soldano. And then behind me are a whole bunch of amps. And there's also right there under the white thing, there's an 88S, not the studio one. The studio one has push buttons in the front. So both of them are actually connected and running as one system, which I can use to get 16 amplifiers. And they're all connected. I could go to several different cabs. Well, at the moment, I don't really have that. I have this combo as one cab, and then I've got a Torpedo Studio as a cab, I've got the aux as a cab, and I've got this Iron Man 2 from Tone King as a cab. But you can go and address 8 cabs. Oh no, you can address 16 cabs. And these are cascadable up to, I think it was 72 or something. And I then on the table have a remote where you can simply say, I want amp number 7 with cab number 12. Totally doable. What wasn't possible until now was getting the loops of the amps in a kind of a switching situation. Yes, of course, I can have something in the loop of the Rev Generator 120 Mark III, but then let's say I've got my beautiful tape delay, the Echo Fix EFX2, and that isn't moving with my guitar signal. It stays in whatever amp I have it connected in. And now Ampete has a solution. I know there's other brands on the market that have solutions. If you ask me, Ampete is the shit, okay? They have the 8FX. Already unboxed it. That's what it looks like. Little clickies here. I don't quite know how they work yet. It'll tell you which loop is on. You have a master loop right here. That's actually where the delay will go. And then these 8 ins and outs will be where you're connecting 8 amps. And the great thing is, this thing has MIDI and it has network. And with network, you're connecting it to your 88 or your 88S or Studio or whatever. And then when you're with your remote switching on that switcher, this will go along. So you could switch it by itself. It's a possibility. But you can also say, well, look, I'm going to that amp, move everything there. Move my guitar signal, put that amp onto the one speaker I've got in the room, and put everything I've got in the loop of this into the loop of the amp. And since it's buffered and all that stuff, you're not really losing anything. That is great to get my really cool effects that I would like to be in the loop of stuff into amps that are kind of driving. When it's in front of it, like the Tone King or the Huckstrom, I was going to say, the Hamstead, it's not the biggest problem, but if you have an amp that's driving, you want stuff in the loop, especially delays and reverbs. So this is kick-ass. Let's unbox this, which I think is just another 88S Studio. I'm an idiot, why didn't I ask them for the 88S Studio 2? Might be it, I don't know. Because for Gear Street, which is happening again in August, we have every studio at Gear Street hooked up with these Ampete switches. So in Studio B over there, I already have an 88S Studio with a separate remote, and you see me switching all the time, and some of you might not even question, how does he get the guitar into all the different amps? Well, that's how I get the guitar in the different amps. So this studio has 16 possible amplifiers plus 8 possible loops, which means I'll probably put the loops only on this side, and the amps on the other side will be shit out of luck. That's just how it's gotta be for now. Unless I get a second one of these, and I don't even know if I need that. But then there would be a second loop. Now the question is, can you cascade them? I don't think you can. No, I think you can. There's a bus out. I think you can cascade them. So you could have the same loop in 72 different amps, if you so wanted to. So the Studio B, I've got 8 and a remote. In here, I got 16 and a remote, and now the Loop 1, which of course this video is about. But we also have a third studio for Gear Street, and that is upstairs in the living room, and I need a switcher there. And we always, they send it to me, we used it for Gear Street, I sent it back, they were one of the participating brands. And I said, look, this time around, please send me one, let me keep the damn thing so it doesn't go back and forth and back and forth. Which also might mean that in Studio B, when we don't do Gear Street, which is literally just 4 days out of a year, I can use this to achieve 16 amps. I don't even know if I have 16 amps over there, but I could, and I would, and I will. And then I just take it out of Studio B for Gear Street, and that's it. So, were they smart enough to send me the new one? I don't know if they did, because the new one can also harbor an attenuator, which then applies to any amp and any cab. So you're literally just putting the attenuator in the attenuator loop. Oh! 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 There's a 2 on it! So I'm gonna unbox it, and then... This is good shit, and I like good shit. Leslie's sitting back there like, what the crap is he talking about? So, on here, input, pick your amp, pick your cab. If you have no cab picked, you can't pick an amp. This thing is smart. You're never gonna damage your amps with, you know, impedance and whatever. On off, you see whatever you selected here. It's got the attenuator thing! Where do I put this now? Because it's cool. Well, probably upstairs. It'll go into the living room. So, in the back here, these will go to your amp's inputs. So you need 8 cables. This will be coming from the amplifier's speaker outs, all in here. And then 2 speakers. And you don't have to connect 8 speakers. You can have it all going to 1 speaker. You can have it going to a speaker, IR loader like the aux, the Torpedo Studio, another one, another speaker, and then who knows what. And then you can pick and choose, and you can have 2 speakers on at the same time. But now, this is brand new, there's also an attenuator loop, which means, see, right there. Right there. And that means you can actually loop in an attenuator, and that will apply to any amp and any cab. And then on the attenuator, you can take it down. So for at home, that's great. Previously, I had an attenuator behind output number 1, which was great. But then I went to a second speaker, and all of a sudden that speaker was getting the full 100 watts of the amp, and it was killing me. So this is a great new feature. I wish. Ampete people. I wish it had MIDI. See, the FX one has MIDI now. If you want to switch this, with MIDI, you still need the remote, which is not cheap. So the remote has a MIDI input. Then again, if you have the remote, do you need MIDI? Well, yeah, you might. You want to do it foot switchable. So why in the world wouldn't you, if they added it on the FX8, this is a brand new 88S Studio 2. Why not give it MIDI? Oh, Ampete people, come on! I mean, I don't need it, I got the remotes. For me, it's fine. But for the normal user, MIDI cannot be so expensive that you can't put it on there. Also, there's space. And here we got the line bus, in and out, which simply means, where's the line bus and the... Ah, that's also the speaker bus. Okay, now it's gonna be interesting. Because if you want to cascade them, you have to get your signal from one 88S to the other. And that's what the line bus is for the guitar signal. So you pretty much send that out into the input of the next, and you just daisy chain them. And here the same thing. So this speaker bus is going to take whatever your amp is sending in here, to the next switcher, and then you can, let's say, go into a speaker that's connected on switcher number 5. You just daisy chain them. However, if you are daisy chaining 88Ss, does that mean that you cannot use the attenuator? I thought the attenuator thing was kind of a separate new feature, and that would have required a separate set of ins and outs, which this doesn't have. So it looks to me as if it's either using one with the possibility of 8 amps and 8 caps with an attenuator, or cascading, but not both. Is this correct, Ampete people? Am I seeing that right? You didn't add a set of ins and outs, you repurposed them. Okay. I think that's what you did. But I could be wrong. I will read up on it. And we'll find out in the next section, where I'm actually installing the effects in here. I already ordered and received these nice, what are they, cordial snakes. So I've got an 8 snake here, which would give me 4 amps with in and out, and then another 8 snake. I don't really have 8 amps to connect, but I have the cables to do it in this rack right there. I could have opted for the snake cables, and then you get them for like €18.50. Thomann has those, and they're probably okay, but I wanted to be on the safe side, so ordered these, didn't get them from Cordial, ordered them at Thomann, and I spent $75 per cable. So that's $150 here. On the other hand, if you've got those amps and you got the money for the Ampete stuff, you know, spring for the better cables, people. Moving on to actually installing it. And here we are. The 8FX, is that even what it's called? I think so. Is installed. It took, I think, 2-3 months to do it, because I didn't want to crawl behind racks, and we actually used it at 42 Gear Street in the living room, which was great, because all the amps with effects loops could have some reverb and delay in the loop, and was switching beautifully. From the first second we turned it on, it was doing what it was supposed to do. I installed it, well, you can see it in the rack behind me. There's the 88S, that's going with a Ethernet to the 8FX, which is then going to the second switcher, which is on the other side of the room in the different amp rack, which you can't see right now. It's the other one is over there, and none of these amps are on the 8FX because I want it to switch along with the first switcher. And the main amps that I'm using with effects loop are actually in this first effects rack, which is where this 88S is. Not all of the amps that I have from 1 through 8 have effects loops. So we got the Red 7, that's got an effects loop, that's number 1. Soldano, number 2. Rev, number 3. Hampstead, number 4. All of them have effects loops. All of these loops are now wired into the 8FX. That Art Sound doesn't have an effects loop, that's number 5. So therefore, it's just not wired. This MV66 is number 6. Also no effects loop, so it's not wired up. But the Synergy Syn 50 doesn't have an effects loop, so number 7 is wired up, and number 8, which is the Tone King, is also effects loop free. So even though I have 8 effects loops in the 8FX, right now I'm only using 5 of them. Amps number 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 7. So if you don't want it to go along with your amp switching, then you could actually just have both of them independently. But for me, obviously, it's very easy to switch an amp on the 88S, and the 8FX just goes along with it. As long as the network cable is installed, it does that beautifully. So let's talk about what I have in the effects loop. It's rather simple, and it makes a lot of sense to me. In the effects loop, I have my Echofix EFX2, which is a real tape delay. And when that is in the effects loop, or anywhere, it does have some hiss and noise and all that stuff. So it's great to take that out, and that's what you can do with the 8FX by going to this button right here. You can take the whole effects chain that is in the effects loop out. So all that happens is the effects loop send will go to the 8FX, but then directly return so it's on bypass. So it's running through 2 extra cables, but you're taking whatever is in there out, which is a good thing for me to do. If I don't want the effects loops active, if I want to take that tape delay out, I just roll back and do that. Also, in the effects loop, I have the Rev G8 gate, because most of these amps are high gain amps and there is a lot of noise happening. So being able to put that in the effects loop, let's see, show it. There you go. There's the Rev G8 gate, or the gate. And I have it with the 4 cable method. So with the guitar, I'm going into the gate, then it's going out into the front of the amp. Not in the front of the amp, actually into the front of the Ampete 88S, which is then going into all these amps. And then the effects loop of these amps are going through the gate again, if I so want it, before my tape delay. Now, if I only want the gate, what do? I can go to the tape delay, and right here, I can switch off the delay. And with this foot switch, which I have plugged in the front, I can actually switch off the built-in reverb. It's not, doesn't go together. You literally have to do it at the same time. The 2 switches. But that way, I can have only the gate in the effects loop, but no effects. So right now, I'm actually in the synergy with the module that I can't talk about it yet. And it's super quiet. Because I got the gate on. It analyzes the guitar in the front end, but then cuts down the loop. Now, if I want to take it completely out of the loop, I can. There we go. I just push the effects off, and now there's all the noise that there usually is. If you can actually hear a difference between effects on and effects off, other than the noise, I tried. I imagine there's a difference, but I mean, of course, it's going through more cables and the 8 effects, but I'd rather have a 1% difference in tone and not have that noise. Really. But I actually don't think there is a 1% difference. It's an imagined difference. Well, obviously, you know, the gate is grabbing it. Of course, I can turn the gate off, and now let's turn the effects on. There's my tape delay running. What if I want a different amp? Let's go into the Red 7. Bam! Amp number 1. And I'm in the Red 7. And all my effects are in the Red 7. And the gate is in front of the Red 7 and in the effects loop. Everything moved over. How freaking cool is that? We're in the Soldano. That's how easy that was. Everything moved to the Soldano. And look, with the gate, no noise, but I still have the delay because the gate is cutting off before the delay. Noise free. Let's turn the effects off. That's rather... It's not that noisy, but still some stuff going on, and I can easily, you know, kill that by turning the effects on. And with my switch on the table and the switch on the tape delay, I still have control over the tape delay just being out of the loop. So we have one more, and we have two more amps. We have the Rev Generator 120 Mark III there. With a real tape delay and a gate, and it's clean. We also have the Hamstead R60. Oh, the tremolo is on. The tremolo seems to be before the power amp after the loop, so that's nice that the delay then gets tremoloed. And back to the mystery module in 7. Look how quiet that is. That is so amazing. It's not quiet. It's actually pretty damn... But... that gate kills it, and I can move that whole setup from amp to amp. I am very happy about this. And if I ever choose not to have any of that in the loops, I turn the 8 effects off on the front. Of course, it is also MIDI controllable. I could do that with MIDI. And I might even choose that. I have those Bluetooth MIDI things from CME. The WIDI jack. So I could put that behind on the 8 effects and then use my AirStep with Bluetooth to just turn it on and off. And I have that on the table right here. What can I say? It works. I don't hear any coloration in sound. I've got all these amps wired up with the gate, with a real tape delay, and now I can actually really make more use of those amps without the noise, because the gate is movable to all those effects loops, and I can really make use of my tape delay because I can take it in and out of those loops and move it from one amp to the other. Pretty freaking awesome. If you have an 88S switcher, it makes sense to get the 8FX. If you have a bunch of amps where you have some really, really cool, lovable effect, an effect that you love, do you want to actually plug it into all these amps all the time? Maybe just get the 8FX, even though you have these amps on dedicated speakers and all that stuff, to take your favorite delay, reverb, modulation pedal and move it from one to the other. All I can say is super easy to install, works beautifully with the Ethernet, with the LAN connection. With the 88S and the switcher and the remote, it's a system that works. Is it, bang for the buck, super inexpensive? No. But if you have a shit ton of amps and all that stuff, this is what you have to invest to make the system accessible and easy to use. I am super happy that I now have it installed. I did install it, by the way, with Cordial 8-cable snakes. So I got 2 of those, which of course gives me 16 possible cables, which are now all wired up, and I can just go behind it and wire up more amps. If, for example, where the ultrasound is sitting, I have an amp with an effects loop. Easy, bam, peasy, wired up, and I'm good to go. Should I add more amps that have effects loops? So, thank you, Ampete. You guys have been awesome as always. Sebastian and Peter, you're great people. Thank you so much. Links below. Animals at the end.